I'm here with special guest George Galloway from the mother of all talk shows is here. And we're talking about the United States is losing its grip on Europe. Europe is, well, here's Macron is telling the rest of Europe that it must resist pressure to become America's followers. Europe must reduce its dependency on the United States and avoid getting dragged into confrontation between China and the U.S. over Taiwan. That's what Macron said in an interview on his plane back from a 3-day state visit to China.
Is he just saying that because France is on fire?
After spending around 6 hours with Chinese President Xi Jinping during his trip, Macron emphasized his pet theory of strategic autonomy for Europe, presumably led by France, to become the third superpower. He said the great risk Europe faces is that it gets caught up in a crisis that are not ours, which prevents it from building its strategic autonomy. He said that when flying home. Okay. Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party have enthusiastically endorsed Macron's concept of strategic autonomy, and Chinese officials constantly refer to it in their dealings with European countries. Party leaders and theorists in Beijing are convinced the West is in decline and China is on the ascent, is on the ascendant, and that weakening the transatlantic relationship will help accelerate this trend. The paradox would be that, overcome with panic, we believe we are just America's followers, Macron said. The question Europeans need to answer, is it in our interest to accelerate a crisis on Taiwan? No. The worst thing would be to think that we Europeans must become followers on this topic and take our cue from the U.S. agenda and a Chinese overreaction. Guess what? It's catching on too. So there's another article, Charles Michael, Europe is warming up to Macron's strategic autonomy, pushing away from the United States. European leaders are becoming increasingly favorable toward French President Macron's push for strategic autonomy away from the United States. The European Council boss, Charles Michael, said, or Mitchell, I don't know how you say his name. There has been a leap forward on strategic autonomy compared to several years ago, Mitchell told French television show La Fate in an interview set to air on Wednesday. And then here is a member of the Germans. This is German's parliament. I think it's the Bundestag. I don't know how you. She demands that America. This is her name is Seven Dagdigen. I'm bad with names. She's a well-known leftist politician in the German parliament. She has spoken out in favor of Ukrainian neutrality and opposes sending German weapons to the Ukraine. And so she gave a speech, but it's in German, so I'll read it to you. So she says, and that is why we also say after 78 years, it's now time for U.S. soldiers to go home. We still have military bases in Germany. I've been to them. I've been to the military. They're nice.
Is this because we broke their gas pipe?
I bet it is.
Are they mad about the gas pipe?
Because we blew up their gas pipe thing. All other allies left Germany a long time ago. These times are long gone. But we're still there since World War II. But we stand by our position. The United States nuclear weapons must go. However, friendship with each other also means breaking with the existent relationship of extreme subservience by Germany on matters of U.S. foreign policy, one that is marked by war, breaches of international law, and support for coups. The U.S. administration gives the impression that they don't actually want allies, just loyal vassals. Yet fewer and fewer countries around the world are prepared to accept this, and that is good news. There was once a time when the Bundestag had more courage. I remember the decision in 2010 for the United States nuclear weapons to be withdrawn, also on the initiative of the FDP Foreign Minister Westerwelle, which has not been implemented to this date. The U.S. military bases behave like extraterritorial areas in which the Constitution does not apply. On German soil, assistance is provided in U.S. wars, lethal drone strikes, and torture flights in breach of international law. And the U.S. hosts conference at Ramstein Airport. I've been there in Germany, as if the occupation statute was still in force. So let me bring in George Galloway. So it seems This is good, actually. This might be bad for the United States, but it's good, again, because of the war machine might be ramped down when Europe decides to turn its back and stop being a vassal of the United States. Tell me, what's your reaction to this?
Well, you can take some comfort from the fact that no British government would ever talk like Macron and these German politicians you've been quoting. You can count on the fact that we will be the tail of the American dog right up to the very last. But that is an insufficient base of popular support and of state support for the United States to continue to rule the roost. Because these ideas that you've just been showcasing are breaking out like spring flowers all over the continent, helped by the fact that our economy is now in ruins because of the sanctions that you ordered us to implement on Russia, which have backfired so spectacularly, no one even pretends to dispute it anymore. We've lifted a huge stone and we've dropped it on our own feet. Germany is deindustrializing. The factories are being unscrewed from the floor and shipped to the United States. Green cards are being given to highly skilled German workers, engineering workers are now moving to America with green cards. Great for America, bad for Germany, and not likely to be popular in Germany. Now, I don't know what the Chinese put in Macron's tea, some kind of ginseng, because he's come back. He went there as a mouse. He's come back roaring like a lion, or perhaps not a lion, maybe a chien. But he is roaring nonetheless. And as Michel, who's no friend of Macron, has just said, people are warming to it. And of course, it helps put the fires out in France, which is one of the reasons why Macron did it and is doing it. Because France is in flames, millions are on strike, people are on demonstrations every day in every town, city, village, and hamlet in France. So striking an anti-US tone, a Charles de Gaulle kind of tone, is popular in France and will dampen down the fires in France. So, of course, everyone's acting out of mixed motives, but everyone is concluding that vassalage is a very unattractive role in the world. It doesn't play well with an educated public. And that's what we have now. Ignorance is a choice now, Jimmy. Everyone in the world can, and one day soon will, tune in to the Jimmy Dore Show. Tune in to the mother of all talk shows. Find the truth. Expose the liars. We can all do it. We've got the fingers to do the walking and listen to us doing the talking. And then it will all be over for the empire.
I still don't get what is in it for Europe to go along with this Ukraine proxy war in the first place, and especially after we blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which was going to supply energy to Europe and Germany. And everybody's paying higher prices now. The United States is selling more. I get why the United States wants to do this economic war against Russia. What is in it for Europe?
Well, nothing, and there never was any attempt to test whether we should do this with the public. I mean, it's not as if they put it to a referendum. Do you want to quadruple your energy prices? Because my house is now literally 4 times dearer to heat than it was this time last year. Quadrupled in 1 year. And that's the case for everyone in Britain. And it's the case for everyone in Germany, plus some, because they were more dependent on cheap and reliable supply of Russian gas. And the deindustrialization which it has caused is, of course, causing rocketing inflation. People go to the store and everything's more expensive than it was last week, maybe even yesterday. They go to the gas station to fill up with petrol or diesel. It's all up. So people have got less money to spend on goods which are more expensive to buy, and the economic outlook is bleak. And for what? On whether a town called Kupiansk should be on one side of a line or another when it's been in 4 different countries in the last 100 years? A town that we didn't know existed until 12 months ago, that we can't spell, can't pronounce. We're supposed to send our children to die in a nuclear war for Kupiansk. We're supposed to bankrupt our economy for places, as Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think it was making the point. What does this have to do with us? Until the Russian Revolution, most of these places in Ukraine were in Poland. Some of them were in Romania. Some of them were in Hungary. Many of them were in Russia. This is all nothing to do with us. And if we hadn't decided to use this benighted little place that we now call Ukraine as a proxy for a NATO war against Russia, how many hundreds of thousands of people that are now dead would still be alive? How many limbs that have been severed would still be attached? How many damaged minds, damaged forever, would still be as they were? How many husbands, sons, brothers, fathers would still be alive that are now dead? It is a crime of unimaginable proportions, and 20 years on from the previous crime that we were just discussing. I mean, talk about Groundhog Day. The same liars telling the same lies to lead you into the same catastrophic wars.
And so from your expertise, you have a lot of experience, you know a lot of things. How do you see, because what's fascinating to me is that what is happening right now internationally is what they said Trump's bad stewardship was going to bring us, right? That he was going to make other countries, even our friends, start to turn against us. And well, that's what's happening right now. So now there's BRICS, right? So there's new power centers, economic power centers that are rising up in opposition to the United States hegemony and imperialism. And even our friends like Macron now in Germany. And so, that's what they said Trump was going to do. He was going to do all that. And now, of course, when Biden gets in and they were like, well, you can't have Trump next to the nuclear button. And well, first thing Joe Biden does is he saber rattles with 2 nuclear powers, with Russia and China. And then all the other countries are starting to turn against the United States, from Russia, China. Saudi Arabia is now selling China oil in their own currency. The petrodollar's going away. Brazil, South Africa, they're all joining together against us. South America's getting their own currency. So there's a lot of things. So go ahead, Corey, you want to say something?
I've never heard something like that with like Europe, strategic autonomy. I've never heard a phrase like that before.
I never heard that either.
That sounds like I think we should see other people, like have like an open, have an open relationship.
Yes. Let me bring in George. George, what do you say?
Yeah, it's exactly that. And the ultimate irony, if Donald Trump being the leader of the anti-war movement in America is not irony enough, is that many of those that were marching against the Iraq war and even speaking in US politics and on TV against it 20 years ago are now the biggest, most ravenous hawks for war. They are the people demanding more censorship. At least 20 years ago, I got on the television every night on the BBC because they had to. They felt they had to at least give a glimpse of what one part of the country thought about things. Now these liberals, pussy hats, peaceniks have become ravenous warmongers. And it's the conservatives like Taylor Greene and Donald Trump that are saying, hold on a minute, maybe a nuclear war is not the best idea. Everything has changed. Left and right are lines that no longer mean anything. I spent my whole life thinking I was a leftist, but if a leftist means you support NATO, you support war, you support censorship, you support blacklisting and shadow banning, and all, if that's left, I ain't left. I'm more interested now in what's right and what's wrong. And I think we can find people on both sides of the aisle who are ready to tune into that kind of politics. And that's what I spend my time now trying to build.
Well said. Let's end this segment there. George Galloway's been our guest. Been fantastic having you. Everybody should check out his show. It's called The Mother of All Talk Shows. I'll be a guest on there Sunday. So looking forward to my return visit to your show. It's a great show. George Galloway, thank you for coming on, and thanks for all your wisdom and great words. I appreciate it. Go to jimmydore.com to see my new stand-up special, COVID Lies Are Funny. For only $10, you get to become a premium member, too. And come see us do our live shows. We're going to be doing stand-up comedy in Milwaukee, Nashville, Honolulu, Los Angeles, Northampton, Massachusetts, Syracuse, New York, Cohoes, New York, Hartford, Connecticut, Baltimore, Maryland, and more. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.